Can we take our seat, please, colleagues, so we can commence the meeting? Thank you. You all ready? Right, good morning, everybody. Can I welcome you all to the planning meeting? There's a number of announcements I have to make. There is no planned fire drill today, so if the fire alarm does sound, members of staff will guide you safely out of the building. Can I please remind members to speak clearly into their microphones in order that this can be picked up on the live stream? And I think that applies to members of the public, to my designated speakers. Speak directly into the microphone so it can be picked up. For those members declaring an interest, could you make your way to the St James's room, which is opposite the centre exit from these chambers? And can I also ask, as a matter of courtesy, could mobile phones either be switched off or placed on silent for while the committee is in session? And finally, when the meeting is finished, can I ask members of the committee to place their committee papers in the lockable bins, which can be found near the doors as you leave the chamber? Could you please dispose of any paper, water bottles or general rubbish in the waste bin provided? Thank you. Okay, then I'll formally open the meeting. And item 1 is apologies for absence, please. Who's got the apologies? Is the microphone switched?
Apologies received from Councillor Cunnington and Councillor McNally, with Councillor Rickett substituting.
Are there any more apologies, colleagues? No. Item 2, are there any disclosures of interest from members? Councillor Ray? Are we having some problem with the microphones again? Isn't it? Well, this is unfortunate. I thought these was all checked before the meeting's commenced. Oh, this is working. Just bear with us a moment. Well, okay, who wants that then? Are they working now at all? No. Yes. Well, this is working, but Councillor Ray's wasn't working.
That's the main. That's the main.
Now then, try your microphone now then, please. Okay, sorry about that delay. Please. Okay, Councillor Ray, you was just disclosure of interest.
I'd like to declare an interest in the borough application insofar as that I know the applicant quite well and I've sought legal advice, and whilst I don't think I will be swayed, I think it's in the best interest of the committee for me to leave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Rickett, did you declare an interest?
I did. Just like to state that on item 5, Hatton Solvent Farms, that the applicant has contacted me both by letter and phone call, and on application item number 9, That's in the village that I live, and I know the applicants, and I think it's probably best I leave the room.
Councillor Jones?
I think everybody, I've received communication and telephone calls regarding the Hatton project. It's not influenced me in the decision. With regard to the borough applicant, I think it might be Mr. Mackinder. I'm not sure, and I do know Mr. Mackinder, but I've had no communication or any involvement with these applications.
Councillor Hall?
Yeah, it's similar to Councillor Jones's in terms of item 5 and receiving communication from the applicant and from people opposing that application. However, I'm here with an open mind and it won't affect how I vote.
Can I take it that everybody on this committee, including myself, has received communications, both from those that are opposed to the application, also the applicants themselves? We can take that as read, can't we? Okay. Is that all right, Linda? Are there any other declarations of interest? Councillor Dennis?
Yeah, I saw also the borough application. No, Mr. Mackinder, but it's not making a difference to me one way or the other, so I'll stop it.
Thank you. No more? Oh, sorry, Councillor Aldridge. Right. Well, I'm a member of the drainage board as well, so that'll have to be included. Thank you. Yeah, okay. Have we got past this one now then? Fine, moving on. Item 3, the minutes of the last meeting. We've got a copy here. I hope everyone's read them. Would someone move the type? They're a true record. Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 4, update from the Planning Policy Committee.
There is none, as vice chairman, there is none at the moment.
Thank you. Item 5. Okay, so we now move into the planning applications proper. And the first item is Hatton Solar Farms Limited. That's the applicants. It's clearly written by the public interest. This is obviously an important application. So who's going to present this? Jane?
Yes, that's me. Morning. I think Andrew just wants to say something first.
Yeah, just for the clarity committee, you'll notice that there's a calling from the Secretary of State on this one. It doesn't mean you look at this any differently to any other application you have before you. The difference is that if it's an approval, you're minded to go with the officer recommendation, then it'd be a minded approval from you, simply because then it'll go to the Secretary of State and they will determine whether it'll be called in for consideration or not. If it's a refusal, then it's just a normal rules of planning that the appellant will then have the opportunity to appeal to the Secretary of State through the planning inspector. So then it will go through that process as well. But it's no different determination today by yourself as the minded to approve, and then it will be for the Secretary of State to then determine whether it's called in or not.
Is that clear, everybody? Right, Jane, would you like to make the presentation, please?
Okay, thank you, Chairman. If I can first draw members' attention to the supplementary agenda, which includes an amended map which correctly shows the site area for members to identify it. Further third-party objections have been received. They're outlined on the supplementary agenda. Further representation from Bournemouth Parish Council also maintaining their objections. An addendum to the glint and glare assessment has been received. This concludes that there would be no glint or glare effect on the bridleway once mitigation has been provided. In the officer report, there's reference to a gas peaking station near the existing compressor station. Just for clarity, this permission has now lapsed. And also there's just an amendment to recommended condition 7, which incorrectly referred to dwelling, but it should have referred to the solar farm. So I'll move on to the presentation. So the Google map to identify the site. Here is Sotby Woods. So the site area covers about half of this green field here, and then it covers this field here, and this one here, and also part of this one. The village of Hatton is here. The compressor station is down here, and this is where the proposed substation is to be, approximately here. The bridle way that's referred to in the officer reports runs down here, across here, and then up the side of this field, up to Moor Lane, which runs along here, and Sturton Road runs along here. So site location plan showing the area in red. So you can see Sotley Wood here. Again, the bridle way, you can just see dashed in green that runs down here and up there. So Corner Farm, which is referred to in the report, which is a Grade 2 listed building, lies here. And the properties of Hatton lie here and up here. And again, the substation lies down here. So a plan showing the site. So you can see the grey lines are the proposed solar panels. So we've got Sturton Road along the bottom here. Again, Corner Farm lies there. So there's a gas main running through the centre of the site. That's shown here. The solar panels can't be placed on top of the gas pipe, so this is proposed to be a wildflower meadow. The orange lines are internal roads. You can see it's the green line round here is proposed new hedging. The boxes round the side of the plan are, this is to indicate that trees on the boundaries of the site are to be retained where possible. This is to indicate the wildflower meadow. This down here is to indicate that it's proposed to, where possible, provide bat and bird boxes on the retained trees. And this box down here is to indicate the new hedge that's going to be provided along here. So again, just for clarity, the bridle way is down there and going up there. You can see the green line along there. It's proposed to provide a hedge alongside the bridle way. So this shows the topography of the site and the fencing details up here. This fence will be provided along all the boundaries of the site. And the next plan just shows the land level slightly clearer. So this shows that generally Sturton Road along here is higher than the application site. The point is the south-eastern corner here. And you can see that there's a drop down to the centre of the site. There's a watercourse that runs along here. And then this section of the site is lower down here, and you can see it rises up to the north. Sorry, it's a bit slow. Okay, so this plan shows the compound area to be used in the construction period. There's a temporary access proposed on the corner here on Sturton Road. So Hatton is off to the left of the plan. So there'll be a one-way system. This orange line is the temporary road, and the brown line is one of the more permanent construction access roads internally. So you can see this area is for worker car parking and storage compound within the site. So plan of the solar panels. Height is around 3 meters high, and the lowest point is around 0.8 meters high. So these are the plans of the inverter and transformers that will be throughout the sites. This plan is the communication cabinets. This plan is the storage containers. sorry about that. So this is the transformer details. Substation details. This is for what's at the substation site near the existing compressor station. So the switchgear room and the substation. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
Is that better for everybody? Okay,
Okay.
carry on, please, yeah.
Okay, so this is a plan of the proposed substation, which is down near the existing compressor station and adjacent to the existing substation. So a block plan of the proposed substation. So you can see the existing substation adjacent. Off to the kind of north and west of here is the existing compressor station. So you can see it's proposed to provide a hedge around the boundaries of the proposed substation. This plan shows noise levels from the inverter and substation units. So the circles around these are a 50-metre radius. So that is where the audible noise would be. So this indicates that beyond these circles, there would be no audible noise. This plan, in the glint and glare assessment, they've done residential receptors. This plan indicates where they have looked at. The orange dots are the residential receptors that have been considered. This plan is the road receptors. So you can see all the different dots of the road receptors that has been considered. And this plan is from the landscape visual impact assessment. So this shows the viewpoints that were considered as part of the landscape visual impact assessment. The darker area, the dark purple, indicates the primary visual envelope of the beam, and then the lighter version indicates the secondary visual envelope, where there'll be glimpsed views of the development. So photos of the site. This is taken from the southwestern corner of the site on Sturton Road. So it's looking towards Sopley Woods there. And just to the right of the woods here is the northern leg of the proposed solar farm. So this photo was taken in summer. The next one is taken in winter. Right, so that's the winter one. So this is, sorry. Okay, so this is the winter view, looking up towards Sopley Woods, and again, the area of the northern leg is in this point here. So the next plan is looking due north towards Sopley Woods. So beyond this hedge here is also an area of solar panels. That's the westernmost part of the site. This photo is looking back towards the nearest properties of Hatton. So this photo was taken in summer. This is to the west of the site, and the next photo is the same view but taken in winter. Just so members can see the difference in vegetation and screening. So the next photo was taken in the southeast, more to the east of the site. Again, on the left of the photo is Sturton Road, the hedging that bounds the site. So this is Sopley Woods over here. This is looking back towards Hatton. Again, this photo is taken in summer. Next photo, similar location taken in winter. This photo demonstrates that Sturton Road is slightly higher than the application site. This photo is taken looking north, again towards Sopley Woods, and then the location of the post of the northern part of the solar panels in this area here, this field. This is the same view as the previous one, but taken in winter. So again, Sopley Woods here, and looking up towards the northern leg of the site here. The Bridle Way runs up along this boundary here. So this is stood in the southeastern corner of the site. This is the highest point. So there'll be solar panels in this field here. Again, this photo is obviously taken in summer. Sopley Woods over here, and then the northern part of the site in this area here. The Bridle Way just runs along the right-hand side of this photo. This photo, same location taken in winter. So again, solar panels in here, Sopley Woods there, and you can see the northern part of the site there. And the Bridle Way is the other side of the hedge that's on the right-hand side of the photo. The next photo was taken from the Bridle Way. We've walked down the eastern boundary of the site, down to the corner, and we're looking directly south. Again, you can see the difference in land levels looking along the western part of the site. The property you can see there is Corner Farm, which is the listed building. The next photo is stood in a similar position, but facing east, looking towards Sopley Woods, and the solar panels in this field here. Next photo was stood in the southern part of that northern leg, so Sopley Woods here, solar panels will be in this area here, and this is a Bridle Way. So you can see currently it's open, but it's proposed to plant hedging along the side of it. The next photo is taken further to the east on Sturton Road towards Great Sturton, looking back across the site. So you can see Sopley Woods, Bridle Way is along here where you can see the hedging, and the northern part of the site is that field there. This is a photo of Corner Farm, and obviously this is the application site on the left where the solar panels would be. So we're heading back into Hatton now. So this is the last property in Hatton, looking directly towards the site, in this field here. So there's reference in my report to the old one. This is stood at the back of that property on the public footpath. So the fence on the right hand side of the photo is the rear boundary of that property. Looking across to the site, the Sotley Woods is there. There'll be a new hedge across here, the solar panels beyond. There'll be approximately 200 metres between here and the start of the application site. So we're moving on to the north of the site now, onto Moor Lane, looking southwards. So this is taken in the winter. So we're looking due south across that northern leg of the site. So Sotley Woods here. Solar panels will be in this area here, and the Bridle Way comes out up to the left-hand side of the photo. The next photo was stood where the Bridle Way joins onto Moor Lane. So it's looking across towards Sotley Woods. Again, this is taken in the summer. So the solar panels would be in the northern part of the site in this area here. And you can see some of the rest of the application site beyond. And the next photo is the same view but taken in winter. We're now to where the proposed substation is. So this is the existing substation here on the right hand side of the photo. It will be beyond this hedge here in this area. It's Panton Road running along the front of the photo. Slightly further along Panton Road, looking back towards the site, you can see the existing substation. The compressor station is beyond these conifer trees to the left of the photo. And finally, this photo was taken further along Panton Road, looking back towards the sites. So the proposed substation will be approximately in this location here, and you can see the existing compressor station here. And that's it, thank you.
Could we have the lights back on, please? Right. I have 4 speakers to speak on this particular application, and I think I just need to remind everybody that the only people from the public who are allowed to speak within this meeting are those that are on my list of designated speakers. When they have made their contribution as a part of the way this committee is conducted, they are not allowed to make any further contributions, and I need to point this out to avoid any, genuine misunderstandings. So I'll take the first speaker, Mr. Robert Shaw, who is the applicant's agent. Could you come forward, please? Could you take one of those seats on the front, please? Thank you. Now, you activate the mic by pressing the button. The red light should come on. Is it working? Is red light on?
It is, yeah.
Right, okay. Now then, sir, you have 3 minutes to address the committee. If you speak clearly into the microphone in your own time. Thank you. And we'll let you know when you've got 30 seconds left.
Thank you. And good morning, Chairman, councillors. My name is Rob Shaw. I'm the planning agent on behalf of the applicant Push Generation and Supply. So our solar farm that you've seen this morning will offset approximately 12,500 tonnes of CO2 emissions every year and will generate enough power for approximately 21,000 homes. This project will help East Lindsey in its very ambitious target of net zero emissions by 2040 and the earlier target of 2027 for a 40% reduction. It will provide secure, low-cost energy to the grid, which will help to reduce the burden of high energy costs for homes and businesses over time. We welcome your officer's recommendation for approval and note that this follows a comprehensive assessment of the proposals by them. We've undertaken pre-application and local community consultation and have incorporated some of the helpful suggestions to improve the scheme from them. And we note that while there is some local objection, there is also an awful lot of local support from residents that see the benefits of the proposals. The nature of the landscape means that the scheme will be mostly screened by existing vegetation, and this can be grown up around the edges, and we further committed to additional planting where necessary. The land is mostly grade 3A and 3B agricultural land, and it's designed so that sheep can graze alongside the solar farm, meaning there'll be minimal impact on food security, something which Natural England confirmed in their response. The permission is temporary for 40 years, after which that allows the entire development to be removed. The proposal will create very significant biodiversity net gain with over a 70% increase in habitats, new native wildflower planting, wildlife corridors, and over 100% increase in the amount of hedgerow. Effects of glint and glare on the bridleway receptors have been analysed in detail, and with the additional screening, there will be no impact on homes or horses. So in summary, ground-mounted solar projects like this are a vital part of addressing the climate crisis. As a clean technology producing no pollution, solar can be delivered alongside agriculture and improvements in biodiversity, and it represents a UK-derived energy source, which is important given the current crisis affecting households and businesses. So our solar farm complies with local and national policies.
30 seconds left, please. Thank you.
And through the use of planning conditions, all technical matters are addressed. So if I could finish by saying I've seen and worked on hundreds of solar farms around the country, and I'd say this is one of the best solar farm sites that I've seen. So we respectfully request that members resolve to grant this important application in line with the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd like to remain in that seat, please. I'd like to call the next designated speaker, Mrs. Rushira Yarslav. I think I've pronounced her name correctly. I hope I have. I do apologise. If you'd like to come forward, please. The same rules apply to you, is that you have 3 minutes to address the committee. If you speak clearly into the microphone, please, and we'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left in your own time. Thank you.
My purpose today is to implore the Planning Committee to refuse this application. The public engagement has been a farce, confirmed through resident objections. Support instead, through misleading statements, has been canvassed in towns and villages some 3 to 7 miles away, of persons who will never be impacted, resulting in 108 standard letters of support. 94 letters of objection are from impacted residents and visitors who have experienced the unique landscape amenity. The loss of BMV land continues to be a matter of national importance. The applicant indicates 80% BMV land. However, once the bill amendment is passed in Parliament, 100% will be BMV land. It's a matter of time. Flooding on BMV land in Lincolnshire by 2050 is predicted. Our food supply and security must be protected. Why remove over 180 acres of BMV land for over 40 years from an area not at risk for flooding? Why this BMV land when there is over 600,000 acres of commercial south-facing roof space available? A network of 9 underground gas pipelines run through our entire village, and 1 high-pressure pipeline runs through the site of this application. This is a health and safety concern, exposing our hamlet to not just accidental, but deliberate catastrophe. The approval of this application will amplify the cumulative impact to our rural hamlet. We have a gas compressor station its substation, a massive industrial solar unit, and an additional 132 kV substation, a total of 4 industrial developments. This far outweighs the setting of this rural hamlet. The only amenity our hamlet has is its uninterrupted views. Once our landscape becomes a solar landscape, these patchwork views of rolling fields, which gives it its landscape character, will be destroyed, along with our only visual amenity. To convey the fears and stress endured by the residents of Hatton, Sotby, and Great Sturton is difficult, but the devastating impact this application has had on the health of residents has tragically already been realized. Mandy, Alice, we thank you for your unwavering support at this difficult time. I have only touched upon the reason this site is
You have 30 seconds left, Mrs. Yarser. Thank you.
not appropriate, but I urge the planning committee to visit the site and understand the concerns of its residents, the people who most directly are affected by this infrastructure. It is in your power to not doom us to any further industrialization. Please refuse this application. Thank you. I'd just like to say there's a letter from Sir Edward Lee objecting to this as well, if anybody wants to read it.
Thank you. Could you remain in that position, please? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We must move on. I now call Councillor William Gray, who is the local member, who, as a local councillor, he has 5 minutes to address the committee. I think you know the rules, William. You've got 5 minutes and we'll give you notice when you've got 30 seconds left. In your own time, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here today to support my residents and support their objection to request this planning committee to refuse this application. I'm not against renewable energy. I support it, but in the right location. Grange Farm, Kirkby-on-Bain is an excellent example of this, appropriately located with no loss of community amenity and on land that had not been used for the production of arable crops. However, there is a conflict between the energy crisis and food security with regards to climate change. Climate change affects both equally. Today, you have the unique opportunity to make sure one is not at the expense of the other. Land is finite. It cannot be reduced or replaced. Renewable resources are versatile and can be placed on other sites, thus ensuring we combat the energy crisis and meet our net zero targets, as well as securing our food security. The site is surrounded by 24 houses which have direct views over this beautiful site. Additionally, there are 8 holiday lets which surround the site, not including the many more being planned in the villages around. This fact is not mentioned in the officer's report. An entire chapter of the 2018 core strategy is dedicated to, and I quote, widening the inland tourism and leisure economy, end quote. Tourism brings an income stream to this district, which is very important. Lincoln Cathedral can be seen from the roads through these fields on which this site is planned. This application will be a blot on an otherwise beautiful landscape as seen in the photos we've just seen and affects the income of many. 5 of the properties with clear views of this site are in my ward, and all except 1 have submitted objections to this industrialisation on a grand scale, owing to the fact that their livelihood will be impacted as a result of its placement. The Beeches have 5 holiday cottages. For the last 30 years, they've been running these cottages, and it is the sole income generator for this family. The Vicarage run an equestrian business, which depend on living close to the bridle path through this site. The glare and noise, I'm sure, will affect their business. Corner Farm, a Grade 2 listed farm, planning to create holiday lets. The very livelihood of some of my residents is at risk through this application, and I cannot stress enough how I feel it will impact their lives. Health and safety of residents is a serious concern. Ruchira spoke about the gas pipeline. I'm gravely concerned about the high pressure pipeline that runs through the middle of this site. How is the health and welfare of our community guaranteed? National Grid must also recognise the risk, as is evident by the holding objection. What safeguards will be put in place, and where is the health and safety executive report of the proposed 2 sites? Noise must be considered. Whilst the officer indicates that noise is not considered a nuisance to the residents, from the information provided, it is unclear how high and low frequency noise will affect the residents and wildlife, especially bats in the area. The World Health Organization has indicated that electromagnetic fields in an area that requires more research. However, exposure can cause headaches, nausea, skin rashes, fatigue, and sleep disturbance. Many residents here are retired or work from home and therefore at greater risk of exposure. The cumulative impact must not be underestimated. This small rural hamlet sites a gas compressor station and a large stump station that supports it. In addition to this application will add 2 further industrial sites spread through this rural hamlet. It is unfair to ask this rural hamlet and burden the power requirements of a district and county on them. How can we start adding large swathes of solar arrays on the foothills of the Wolds? We are meant to preserve and protect this area. And with the approval of this application, we will be giving the message that we don't care about our small rural communities and they will suffer. Just the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. The costs of the many must outweigh the profits of the few. In summary, I firmly believe this application is inappropriate and scale and location. It does not fit with the landscape and character of the area and the residents will be poorer for it. Councillors, if you are considering approval, which I sincerely hope is not the case, I request you all visit the site before any decision is made. I urge the committee to drive through the site from the A158 all the way to Great Sturton and then back to Hatton, and you will see the single track roads, blind bends, and how many residents facing it will be affected. I implore the committee to please refuse this application, as your approval will set a dangerous precedent and pave the way for many more applications of this type in our glorious rural countryside. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, councillors, for listening to me today.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gray. Would you remain in that seat, please? Yes, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The final speaker is Melvin Grosvenor. If you'd like to come forward, Mr. Grosvenor, please. Right, so the same rules apply to the other speakers, except Councillor Gray. You have 3 minutes to address the committee, and we'll give you notice when you have 30 seconds left. If you could speak clearly into the microphone, please, in your own time. Thank you.
Good morning. As
Is
clerk
the-
to Bournemouth
is the red
Parish
light
Council.
on?
Can you hear me?
It's on, yes, thank you.
Sorry. As clerk to Bournemouth Parish Council, our members have carefully considered this major application and have submitted 4 consultation responses, all of which have been published on the ELDC's planning portal, raising numerous significant material concerns. We have also considered representations by directly impacted residents from this vulnerable rural community and find their concerns materially substantive. One of the main matters the Parish Council wishes to highlight is the cumulative impact an approval will have on the hamlet of Hatton and surrounding villages, which is completely contrary to the rural agricultural setting of this area, which is helpfully described within the meeting pack at paragraph 8.2. The proposed solar farm is sited in an attractive rolling countryside setting set against the backdrop of Sopley Wood. The site is gently undulating in places. It would utilise mostly grade 3A land with some 3B and a small area of grade 2. This means the proposal would be utilising best and most versatile agricultural land, which notably does not have any industrial development consent, as set out in our submission dated the 22nd of February 23. This large-scale solar plant, if approved, will have a material and redefining impact on the current ELDC landscape character designation E1 Rugby to Horsington Vale farmland, which is recorded as being within a very distinctive and intact rural landscape. This LCA designation especially defines the rural landscape in the setting of Hatton and Bournemouth parishes out with the relatively short stretches along the A158 corridor. The proposed solar plant comprises of nearly 121,000 solar modules, 9 large inverters, construction compound, 132 CCTV cameras mounted on 4-metre high poles, not 2.5 metres, approximately 6.6 kilometres of security fencing, 2.2 metres high, considerable lengths of which will border the current permissive footpaths and bridleways and will impact on some views from within Sopley Wood directly onto the solar site. Sopley Wood is a highly valued recreation amenity area for residents and an increasing number of visitors.
You have 30 seconds left, please. Thank you.
Bournemouth PC's considered assessment is that the proposed development therefore does not satisfy paragraph 158B of the NPPF, which is to prove the application if its impacts are or can be made acceptable. Alternative sustainable policy options for solar power generation are readily available, and we also, as Parish Council, recommend that the Planning Committee members conduct a site visit, as this application requires consideration.
Thank you, sir. Your time is now up. Thank you. Right, now then, if you folk could please remain in your current seats. There's now the opportunity for the members of this planning committee to ask questions of you all. So who would like to, Councillor Hall? And who's that directed to?
Thank you. Just at the beginning of what you were saying, you said that there were specific, I mean, what are these specific misleading statements that have been made by the applicant?
In the letters of support that were canvassed, there was a point in there that was said to basically it said the substation already had planning approval. There is no substation with planning approval. The one that has it is the one that's being worked on, which belongs to the gas compressor station. The one that they are planning for or had approval for, which lapsed in August last year, was for a gas peaking station, which is completely different than what they're applying for now. The peaking station actually caters for the lack of renewables to generate enough energy. Thus, they work overtime, charge you more money to be able to run so you have continuous electricity supply.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Matthews?
Two questions for Mr. Shaw, and it's around the objections from the parish council. One was, what is the risk of fire for solar farms, and about the impact on privacy from CCTVs on the site?
Thank you. So taking those in turn, so the risk of fire from solar farms is very, very small. They're not like some other forms where there are major combustible elements. Batteries are a particular case in point. There are no batteries on this site. Most fires resulting from solar farms, solar panels, and remember we have these on many of our roofs, etc., come from poor installation practices. So Push in the construction process here will follow all procedures to ensure that that's not the case. And of course the site will be monitored for performance reasons, which will also make sure it's installed correctly. Your second point about CCTV, it's an important point. So the CCTV poles are dotted around the edge of the site on 2.5 metre poles. They will be looking along and into the site. They will not be looking back, say, into residential properties. So it will be purely to look along and inside the solar farm itself.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Neil Jones.
Good morning, Mr. Shaw. Two things really. The gentleman for the parish council, Mr. Grosvenor, mentioned that they were 4 metre poles, and you talked about 2.5. So could you clarify that? And the second thing is regarding the fencing, is it all going to be hedged around? I know there's extensive hedging, but are you going to screen this fencing that you're putting around?
Thank you. So I can confirm that the CCTV poles will be 2 metres. So that's shown on one of the drawings. It's the fence and CCTV plan. So that is shown on there. So 2.5 metres. The fencing around, and this will be your post and wire deer-proof fencing, it's typically called. So slightly taller, being at 2 metres than the sort of fencing you'd normally get, but it's the same style that's typical in rural environments. We benefit here because quite a lot of the edge of the site is already screened, but there are certain edges, such as some of the ones that we mentioned near Hatton, which are not. They will all be screened with the fence inside. So the thing you will see first is the hedgerow. So, makes sense.
Councillor Dennis.
Yes, Mr. Shaw, have you any rebuttal to the young lady, what she said about the misrepresentation from your company?
Sure. My understanding is that what was referred to in that letter was the fact that there was a gas peaker, exactly as described, with its substation consented. And that is true. That's the consent that is now lapsed. So they both come from basically the same company. Originally got consent for the gas peaker. That was allowed to lapse because Push Generation sought to move away from gas peakers towards solar farms, and so use that same grid connection to serve the solar farm. So we wouldn't say it was a misrepresentation, but we do apologise if things weren't clear.
Is Councillor Kerry not? Oh, sorry, one more. Yes, from Councillor Dennis. Beg your pardon. Then you, Councillor Knowles.
Any reply to that?
Thank you, Councillor. I do. The support letters was sent out saying that there is already planning approval for a substation or a solar farm or whatever. It said a substation on their letter. Now, if somebody came to my house and said to me, we're going to lower your electricity costs, look at this letter, would you like cheaper electricity? You know, there's already approval there, go ahead, sign it. I would, for my own village, I would, for the simple reason you're already saying, this is nothing new. There's already, all this is going on. Every person I have spoken to so far in Rugby and in Horncastle and in Bomber have said, oh, well, what's the problem? There's already, you know, approval there. They think the gas compressor station, the work that's going on there is the exact same thing which Push Energy are applying for. It's not true. They're completely different things. We currently have a gas compressor station and a substation that supports that. We are also now going to have this. So that's a lot for a small little hamlet like Hatton. It's not fair.
Thank you. First of all, the members ask questions of the panel here. Anybody else? Councillor Knowles.
So
thank you.
I assume that was aimed at me. So yeah. So yeah. So like a vast majority of solar farms, they are designed to allow sheep to graze under and around the panels, hence the 80 centimetres off the low end. There is typically sort of 2.5 to 3 metres between each row. So there is an awful lot of space that is not covered by the panels themselves. The panels themselves, as the sun would move, will give different amounts of light coming under the panels to the grass below at different times of the day. But from ample evidence of lots of solar farms that I've been involved with that are now operational, the grass grows perfectly fine underneath. The sheep like it because it gives them shade and shelter during different times of year. And while in biodiversity terms, it will change slightly the habitat below the panels from outside, ecologists would advise that creates diversity. So I think the final point related specifically to your question and the amount of light and nutrients that will get to the grass, we'd say that it won't affect that in any meaningful way, and there will be plenty of food available. Plants absorb 1.5, maximum 2% of any incoming light. The rest just gets radiated back. Our understanding is it makes no meaningful difference.
Right, colleagues, are there any more questions? Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Aldridge, are your questions relating to this one individual or to Mr. Shaw? Okay, away you go then.
Yeah. Are we working? Oh, right. Are you're willing to let me have all four, are you?
Yes, but then you don't go on for about 4 hours. Yeah,
No,
fine.
well, 6. Mr. Shaw, it is good agricultural land. Now, believe it or not, I've got a friend, which is very difficult for many to believe, but I have a friend who actually is an expert in solar panels and generations. He's told me, what about cleaning? Because these panels will need cleaning because bird droppings, Sahara sand, and everything else. And my understanding is that they need to be cleaned and professionally cleaned. Otherwise, their generation ability drops off dramatically. And I don't believe the generation is that great. Can you answer that question, those 2 questions for me, first of all?
So in terms of cleaning, of course, I have solar panels at home and we have to get them cleaned for exactly the sorts of reasons you've identified. So that will happen several times a year. It's normally done with distilled water, with people going around and cleaning them. So that will happen. The other question, I'm not sure I got the specific question. So efficiency does drop over time. That is modelled into the calculations, and that's worked through. And within the 40-year lifespan, they are still generating as much energy as makes it viable to continue. So it does drop, but it doesn't drop enough to warrant a scheme becoming unviable or needing to replace those panels.
I have another one.
This is your third, isn't it?
Sorry?
This is your third question, isn't it?
Yep.
Away you go.
You say that they're temporary, 40 years. 40 years is temporary, not in my book. That means I'm halfway through my life when I'm born, and these will still be there. So I don't believe that they're temporary at all. Many components, I am told, cannot be recycled. And you did mention about the cleaning. It isn't just distilled water, is it? No, there are chemicals that are used as well to clean them. And what are they? They're absorbed into the ground and then into the drainage system.
Is there a question there, please, Councillor
Yes.
Aldridge?
All right, I'll put a question. Yep, are you okay with that?
So in terms of the temporary, I'm saying they're temporary not because it's a short period of time. I recognise 40 years is a long period for anyone, but the temporary nature of these means there is a planning condition that requires the development to be removed. So it means that at the end of its life, you're not left with a brownfield site that you can't get rid of, that needs cleaning up by somebody else. It means that we are legally required to remove it and restore it. So it's more about that ability rather than it's us trying to say it's a short period of time, because you're right. In terms of recycling, this is a new but relatively new but very fast growing industry around the world. The capabilities for recycling the solar panels and associated equipment is improving year on year, and those facilities are increasingly available. So that's for the more technical elements. Clearly the fencing, the wood, the poles, all those sorts of elements are much more readily able to be recycled in the sort of composted in the normal state of play. I think there was another question in there I may have forgotten. Apologies. I think I've covered the efficiency.
That was the first one, Terry.
What?
This is your last one, Councillor Aldridge.
Is it?
You said 4.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you reminded me because
I would do anyway, wouldn't I?
Right, I was listening to Radio 4 this morning and it was on about the loss of agricultural land and how important it is that we use as much agricultural land as we can to provide fruit, vegetables and everything else. Now you're taking this away, okay? Do you know how much CO2 will be generated by imports, by plane, by ship, imports of vegetables, fruits and everything else? Because my understanding is, and I take this from an expert, my understanding is that CO2 generated by the planes and the ships bringing this in far, far outweighs the generation of solar power.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Would you answer that question, please?
Sorry? Radio 4 this morning.
Right, thank you. Now, I think we've had a good go at this. People want to address the 4 speakers there. So before I move into open it for debate and decision, could I ask the 3 members of the public to return to their seats? And Councillor Gray, could you go to the St James's room, which is opposite this chamber, so we can then debate the matter and come to hopefully some sort of resolution? Can we please, so we can make a start, thank you. I'm anxious that this important matter is discussed. Right, colleagues, you've heard the presentation, you've heard the responses to questions that you've posed to our 4 speakers. Who is going to open the debate? Councillor Aldridge. So you're formally recommending refusal. Is that seconded? Councillor Hall, are you seconding that?
Yes.
can I also, we have a large number of boundary sites. I don't.
Is your microphone working, please?
I think so. It's on.
Is the red light on? Yeah.
Yeah. We have a large number of brown sites. This is an agricultural site, which we are desperate for food security over the years. I don't necessarily recognise that this is viable.
Okay. Councillor Hall?
I-
Councillor Alex Hall, that is.
Yeah, sorry.
Got confusion.
To be honest, I do disagree with the arguments that fellow councillors have made, especially with regards to the viability of it being agricultural land and the productivity of it, because it is grade 3 land. It's not good enough to produce fruit and veg, and so I do disagree with that. So I just wanted to say that.
Councillor Neil Jones?
Well, it's a very difficult one. Obviously, the residents are very passionate about this. And frankly, I think these solar panels are a blot on the landscape, and they should be on distribution centres and car parks, which are ugly anyway, which we have discussed at council. Having said that, this committee is committed to a zero carbon, is it by 2040? And so we should be supporting projects that help us to move that way. With the residents, obviously there are a large number that are objecting, and are they happy to get rid of their motor cars, their jets on holidays and their log burners rather than put solar panels on this land? We've heard that this is grade 3 land, which is not the fens where you can grow vegetables and things. I did see that there was oats on it, so I assume that it has had some arable crops. But we've heard from Mr. Shaw that it will be could be grazed, that there's wire flowers that will be set there. And I'm sure over the years, and if we look at the plans, there's gaps there. I'm sure that they'll soon develop crops that can actually cope with being covered by these solar panels over the next 40 years. I'm quite reluctant to do this because, as I say, I do think they're a blot on the landscape, but having been through these papers, I can't see very, very few planning objections. When you read this list, apart from, and I say the application is misleading, but industrial, I just can't see the planning applications objections that they are referring to. And so we're in that difficult position that I feel that we should, and I reluctantly support the officer's recommendations and propose that this application be approved.
Yes. Angela's got to have a word.
Just before we sort of move forward, we have got a motion for refusal on the table, moved and seconded. I need to remind the committee that this is it's a large application. Any refusal is likely to end up at public inquiry, and on that basis, any refusal has to be based on planning merits, and it must be evidence based, because you must understand that the council, in defending a refusal, must provide evidence. It can't be conjecture, it can't be hearsay, it can't be the views which aren't based on planning. Now, what I've heard so far, I've heard a couple of policies sort of mentioned, and I mentioned brownfield. That is not enough. I need reasons, valid reasons, material reasons that I can say, yes, the council can defend that on appeal, because ultimately my job here is defend the council from costs as well. It's a very emotive subject for the residents who come here and they put their case across, but they will have to understand that you as a planning committee must have an evidence base. You must have strong reasons for refusal, or the council is then liable for costs at an appeal. So currently, I have not heard enough reasoning for me to comfortably say that's a reason for refusal that can be evidence at appeal. So I'd ask you, the mover and the seconder, just to think, and you need to give me some reasons. We've had policy, but there's no reasoning behind the policy that's being quoted. I need much more than that before we move forward.
Councillor Dennis, you want to speak?
No, I'd like to give way, please, for the proposer of the refusal to come forward with his evidence.
Right. So you're saying then that Councillor Aldridge has proposed refusal, and seconded by Councillor David Hall. You need to have, according to our legal advisor, strong planning reasons why that should be supported. Am I correct, Angela?
Yes, that's correct. We just had some policies, but are we looking at impact on landscape, impact on amenity, loss of land? You know, I have nothing so far that I can comfortably say is a reason for refusal.
Councillor Stephen Ayer.
Thank you. I'll just make two observations, if I may. I'm concerned about the density of this application. I don't know if that's any help at all. I hope it is. What concerns me most of all is the loss of agricultural land. We've had a bit of batting backwards and forwards. The most versatile designations of land are 1, 2 and 3A. 75% of this application relates to those designations. The only bit that's poor is 3B, but whether this project would be desirable on that small area of land, I doubt. But it's all very well saying you're saving the planet, but I promise you, if your stomach's empty, that will be a higher priority.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm just hoping, if it's helping, that my chief concern is the loss of grade up to grade 3A arable land, of which is 75% of the application.
Thank you. Did you want to speak, Councillor Matthews? Councillor Alex Hall?
Sorry, yes.
Take it you want to speak.
Yeah, just after everything we've heard from opposing councillors on this application, you know, it's not good enough agricultural land in my view, and you know, from the arguments that I've heard, I agree with Councillor Jones and second the application.
Are there any more speakers? Councillor Dennis?
Yeah, I come from it at a little bit of a different angle, really. I commiserate with residents. You're very passionate. I can see where you're coming from. But my major problem is not with the loss of agricultural land. It is the impact on the local community. It's not that. Where I'm coming from is power security for this country. That's where I come from. You know, we're in a position, yes, your stomachs could be empty, I understand that, Councillor Ayer, but I think that this country needs independence of power so that we stand alone. We are a country that's powering ourselves, and we don't have to use, and we can't be lent on by big countries such as Russia and different places and be leaned on with these people. And so a big factor for me is power security for our great nation. That is where I come from, to be fair.
Okay. Are there any more contributions for a move forward? Is this a new contribution, Councillor Aldridge? Because we do need to move forward on
I
this.
know we do. And it's a comment. I've heard this. I'm very pro renewable energy. I'm very pro offshore renewable energy. But we've heard the argument. Are you going to go empty in your stomachs? Because we are doing away with agricultural land, which is absolutely desperate.
Right. Okay.
Because otherwise we've got to import everything.
Indeed. Right. Councillor Helen Matthews, followed by Councillor Knowles, and then we're going to move forward. Oh, and Councillor Rickett.
I too have great sympathy. There is going to be a visual impact, but we do need to look to energy security. And you are talking about food production as well, but believe you me, the visual impact of climate change will hit first, and we won't be able to grow the crops. So I will be supporting this development for the greater good, and it does follow in national and local policy to support the principle of renewable energy. that there is a bigger picture, and one of the words that I heard throughout this is about the greater good, and I do think it is going to have an impact, but the bigger impact of climate change is going to be far more horrendous.
Councillor Knowles. Right. Councillor Rickett. Paul.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo what Councillor Dennis has said, but again, coming from a different angle again. I absolutely empathise with these people in the gallery today. And from very small seeds grow big things, and I think these little pockets of people that are affected by these solar farms, we need to encourage them to get change from within, and we need to petition Westminster. This committee passed a housing estate of just short of 200 houses a few weeks ago at North Thoresby. Not a single solar panel on any one of those roofs. And I think we need to affect change within, and houses, not necessarily mandated, but they should be guided and educated about putting panels on roofs, and this would eliminate these. Here's an example from another fellow councillor. If we put 4 kilowatts of solar panels on every south-facing roof in the UK, we'd have twice as much energy as we actually needed. And that is a factual statement.
Thank you. Right, colleagues, we've had a very, very important subject. Thank you. Thank you. Very, very important subject. It's been well debated, been a lot of passion expressed, understandably so. Now, I have a proposer from Councillor Aldridge, seconded by Councillor David Hall, that the application be refused. Councillor Jones, did you formally move to the officer recommendation?
Yes, I did, and that was seconded by Councillor Hall, and I think you take that first.
Well, just to reiterate that for the refusal, I still have not had the grounds. So I think you probably speak with your vote, and then if that fails in the first instance, then I'd hear the refusal, because currently I have not got anything that I can use for refusal.
Right.
I'm sorry, Councillor, it's not.
Excuse me, thank you.
It's not sufficient for a reason for refusal. I still don't understand the grounds on which, and the understanding behind your refusal. Nor, Councillor Hall, you mentioned brownfield. Is there anything else that you can expand on that?
Just one moment, please, Catherine. The officer wants to make a comment, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I think just hopefully as a sort of help advice, the issue we've got and the problem we've got, I appreciate the referencing particular policies that we've got in the local plan, but the issue at stake here is in what way you feel that if you feel they don't comply with the requirements of those policies, the issue we need to know is in what way do you think they don't comply with those policies, and how is that harmful? That's the problem. Or that's what we would need to know to be able to take forward any potential reason for refusal. Equally, I think you have to be aware that you have to set that in the context as well of policies at the national and local level, which are equally very supportive of this type of development. So that really just emphasises the need and the reasons why reasons for refusal have to be very precise. They have to give evidence and they have to explain what the harm is.
Well, I would take your point.
Can you be brief? I'm going to bring this to a close.
We're always, when we go for a refusal, we're always told, oh, this will be a great cost to the budget. What about the cost to the environment and to the people we are supposed to support, which we don't very often?
Right, thank you. Right, now, as I said a few moments ago, we've had a very detailed, passionate discussion on this. I've got two resolutions in front of me. One to approve the application as submitted and office a recommendation, and the other one to refuse it. So I'll take the application, the proposal from Councillor Neil Jones and seconded by Councillor Alex Hall, that the offer recommendation be approved. All those in favour, please show. How many is that?
5, Chairman.
Those against?
4, Chairman. And your abstention?
I'm on normal abstention.
Is there another? There must be another abstention as well. 2 abstentions.
So
that's the minded for approval, subject to the Secretary of State calling.
In other words, as I understand it, the Secretary of State has the final say on this anyway. Is that correct? Thank you. Yes, 5 minutes, please. We spent a long time on this, but it's important.
Yeah, yeah, just say at the beginning of the application that,
Colleagues, can we resume our seats, please, so that we can continue? There's an awful lot of work left to be done. Yeah, okay. We need all the members back so we can recommence the meeting, please. Can we all take our seats, please, so we can continue through the agenda? There are other applications that need to be addressed. Right. Colleagues, I need to move on, please. It's in the, you know, other members need to, applications need to be addressed. Thank you. Okay. I think we're all. The next item is the applicant's Mr. Dixon, and it relates to West Ashby. And the officer is Mr. Panton.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Can I just bring to the members' attention, as on the very last page of the supplementary papers, there's further comments from the West Ashby Parish Council. They were, of course, circulated yesterday, so you will be familiar, but for the sake of completeness, I just thought I'd mention it. So, as I say, that there is further objection and comment from the West Ashby Parish Council there. But it was circulated yesterday, so you should be familiar with it all.
Yeah, when you're ready, Mr. Panton,
okay.
Please.
Right. This is a proposal for 3 holiday cottages, a stable, and alterations to access and further gates on a site behind the property.
Do you want the lights off again, by the way?
The site's located between Horncastle and West Ashby. Members will note there is a strong objection from the Parish Council, paragraph 4.3, and 1 letter of objection from a neighbour who lives just north of the site. As you will have seen in the report, the support for the holiday cottages is a finely balanced one. Given the demand in the area for such accommodation and the business case put forward, the application is recommended for approval. Now move on to the details. So you'll see this is the main road between Horncastle and West Ashby. The application site is there. It's north of the Wolds Wildlife Park. And as I say, that's the edge of West Ashby. That's the crossroads as you're just going into West Ashby, and there's the village hall that many members will be aware of. Right, this is the application site itself. Here we are at the main road. This is the applicant's existing property and their existing holiday cottage located just there. That's the neighbour to the north who has raised objection to the proposal. So the driveway is widened. There's a new access way into the site, into the field where the 3 cottages are proposed. Here they are, 3 lined up there, and there's the stable in the bottom corner of the field. Right, this is the details of the cottages themselves. They're single story, 3-bedroom properties. And there's the stable block. There's actually four stables there, but it's still, you know, a very modest part of the proposal. The more contentious aspect is the holiday cottages, which you can see there. This is the details of the gates. That's the existing gate situation, which you'll see well on the photos to follow. And the proposal is to extend there where the new driveway is formed. Similar type of gate, gate pillar similar but a little bit taller than the existing ones. Right. This is the existing gates. The driveway is widened. Gates would be provided there. You can see that there's a path here on the right-hand side of the slide, and that goes all the way into West Ashby. And this is the applicant's property here. Looking the other way, again, the path goes all the way into Horncastle. This is the hedgerow is removed, and then the new gate and pillars are based in there. Right, that's just another shot. So again, driveway widened, new gates and pillar in this position. Again, similar position, gates and driveway there. As you get into the site, and this grassed area, the applicant's property is just over to the right, through the gate at the bottom, through that gate just there. You can see just the building. This shows looking down the field, and the stable block would be sort of almost in the bottom there. You can see the hedgerow on this southern side of the site and on the western side. This is where the holiday would be located, just at this top end of the field near the at the back of the applicant's property. It's separated from his curtilage by this hedge. You can see that there is a hedgerow trees to the neighbour who's objected, and that's looking across the wider field. As we can see, you know, around the field there is, you know, existing screening, good hedgerow, good trees, and this looks at the siting next to the neighbour in more detail. Their property is further to the road, and this is sort of the bottom end of the garden where the hedgerow and trees are located. So the nearest unit would be in here. And finally, I was looking across back to the gate where we came in. You can see the neighbour's property just there. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, I have one speaker, Mr. Newton. Would you like to come forward, please? Then again, Mr. Newton, you have 3 minutes to address the. I'll let you left. Okay. I'm sorry about the. It's on the blink.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. The officer's report is well considered and recommends approval of this floor plan application. The existing site provides holiday accommodation in a bespoke cottage, which has proved to be extremely popular. The online reviews of the cottage speak for themselves, with an abundance of positive reviews and an overall holiday experience of 9.7 out of 10. The applicant wishes to expand on this success with the addition of 3 high-quality holiday cottages to benefit the site and the local economy. The applicant runs a business with an onus on using local contractors and encouraging visitors to use local amenities and attractions. The provision of the additional units will carry on this approach to help benefit local businesses now and in the future. As you're aware from the report, the proposal are classed as a departure from the local plan due to the location of the site. I recall a similar departure application which was approved by members for 2 holiday cottages in February 2022 at Eastfield Farm in Manby. In this instance, the site was separated from the settlement by some distance and had relatively poor pedestrian connections, but the officer and members concluded that the economic benefits outweighed the locational issues. In contrary, the site at West Ashby has brilliant pedestrian connection with a roadside footpath providing safe access to the historic market town of Horncastle and to the village of West Ashby, and being very, very close to the Wolds Wildlife Park. Previous visitors to the site have expressed that they have enjoyed the walk along the footpath to access local amenities. Therefore, there is tangible evidence that visitors to the site can walk and will walk to local attractions. I see no reason why the pragmatic approach applied at Manby cannot be applied in this instance. We have worked with the planning officer in a proactive manner to provide an appropriate development and have addressed the concerns of local residents. The holiday cottages have been designed to mimic traditional rural agrarian buildings which can be found throughout the Lincoln landscape. The revision of bespoke, well-designed buildings purposely steers away from the use of caravans, which is suggested by the local plan may have a negative impact on the local landscape. The development will assist in extending and diversifying the district's inland tourism accommodation in an ideal location. The proposal provides a well-considered and appropriate scheme which meets the requirements of local and national policy. I therefore request you accept the officer's recommendation and move the application for approval.
Thank you. Have you concluded? Thank you. Right, colleagues, have you any questions of the gentleman? Councillor Jones?
Yeah, just one really. I think the parish council's main objection seems to be the gates. Are you happy to retain the existing gates or come to some agreement over that with them?
I think the drawing showed. I think it's a good solution that bit of hedge comes out and then we just have an extension of the gate. I don't really see it's a massive character issue. It's potentially, yeah. So it's just an extension of that existing double gate. I don't think it's a character issue. I don't think there's any highway means issue. There's been no objection from highways. Yeah, I don't particularly see that as being an immaterial issue, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Any more questions of the gentleman? Okay. Well, the officer recommendation is for approval. Is anybody going to make a... Councillor Dennis?
Move to approve.
Is that seconded? Councillor Aldridge, any other comments? No? It's been moved and seconded that the recommendation be approved. All those in favour, please show.
That's 10, Chairman.
I think that's carried. Thank you. The next item relates to Burley Marsh. Yes, Councillor Ray.
I've discovered, Mr. Chairman, that the applicant is not known to me on the basis that I'd previously thought. So, with your indulgence, I'd like to stay and carry on as normal.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that point. Thank you. Before we move on, I've just been informed there's been a late representation from, would that be Councillor, not Danny? Yeah, okay, if you'd like to read that out.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's a late representation from Councillor Brooks, Councillor Jimmy Brooks. What he's said, if I can read it out, is: Dear Planning Committee, writing to express my full support of the Section 73 application in relation to condition number 5 for the proposed development. As you are aware, the proposed development has been going on for many years and it is utmost important to Borough Lamar. Proposed houses are exactly what the community needs, especially for young families and couples who are looking for this type of housing. Proposed development is in line with the local authority's vision of providing sustainable housing and will provide a much needed boost to the local economy. Moreover, the lifting of condition number 5 will help in the timely completion of the project to ensure that proposed development is delivered as planned. In addition, the proposed development has been subject to extensive consultation with the local community and the developers have taken on board. This has resulted in a development that is sympathetic to. In conclusion, I fully support the lifting of Section 73 application in relation to Condition 5. Developments in Borough Lamar. Proposed houses are exactly what the community. I urge you to give your approval to the application, which will help timely completion of the project and ensure that development is time in consideration.
Thank you. And we also have present Mr. Mackinder. Like to come forward, please. It has to be within your speech, so I take it relates to your application, does it?
Is it on procedure or?
Yeah, that's what you're showing us here.
Yeah.
So I think we've cleared that one up. So you have, as I say, like other speakers, you've got 3 minutes to address the committee and we'll let you know when you've got 30 seconds left. Sorry, I do apologise. It's been a long day. Got technical difficulties. I could do with that. Ready? Sorry about that, Lindsay. Away you go, please.
Thank you, Chair. This application is a Section 73 application in relation to an affordable housing condition that was previously imposed on an outline permission for the erection of 9 dwellings. The application is to remove the affordable housing condition. The site is at Burley Marsh, and the reason the application is presented to committee today was that the original outline approval was approved by committee, which included the requirement for the affordable housing, which is the disputed condition. There is local support for the application and the recommendation is to refuse. As I say, the site is at Burley Marsh, so this is Burley Marsh bypass, main road through Burley Marsh here, and the site is accessed via Ingermills Road onto the common and sits in just here. So this is the actual application site with a few properties opposite, just to the south, and it leads to Dead End Road to the north. This was the reserved matters which was approved, which shows 9 detached plots. That has recently been amended. An application was approved yesterday for an amended layout, which changes the last 4 plots to 2 pairs of semi-detached dwellings. So this shows Common Lane, which is leading to the dead end with the site just in here. And it's basically just a graph. So that's the hedge to the south, looking at the bypass in the back. Again, the bypass in the background with the site to the front. And again, just looking further down with the bypass over here. And that's it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Now, it was an error on my part. The letter which was read out should come out now, but so we won't repeat that. So we do have Mr. McIntyre. You now have a chance to address the committee. 3 minutes, we'll give you notice when you're 30 seconds left. Thank you.
Mary has tried very hard to secure a social provider. And ultimately, after negotiations with Links Rural Housing, it's come out that they basically have got no funding to proceed. Therefore, Mary has agreed to proposed to vary the condition to build 4 energy efficient semi-detached homes, which has actually been passed, giving a planning gain of 1 small home to give first time buyers a chance. 30 letters of support, no objections. You could argue the 33% social housing on a small development unfair and unreasonable. Therefore, it did not necessarily satisfy the 6 tests of the National Planning Policy Framework Neighbourhood Planning Act 2017. This application is the same scenario as I had in 2017 for a triangular piece of land severed by the Borough Marsh bypass, part in flood zone, part social housing. Mr. Panton, Miss Baker, and many of the committee members will probably remember it. Twice it came before committee, twice it was passed by a large majority or unanimously, and the committee were duly rewarded with 10 semi-detached homes, all built by first-time buyers. Many letters of support have since come from them saying that Borough needs this type of housing. Since then, Borough has only had caravans and large houses. Mary won't let you down. What she wants to build is for the good of the village, and she uses all local tradesmen, the builders, the electricians, the plumbers, everything come from within a 6-mile radius. And there is still land on the site available for some social housing in the future, which is perfectly prepared to negotiate with Links Rural Homes when they have some funding to proceed and provide social housing. But it is vital now that this project goes forward. It's been 8 years in the making, and because of this condition, it's been unable to go ahead. So I think the committee should be of a mind to lift the condition, let it get started. Everybody's ready to do it. It will provide work for local tradesmen in a time of when things are getting difficult, and it will give my daughter a chance to take the project forward, which is now starting to cost economically due to changing circumstances in the market, etc. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, colleague, would you like to ask any questions of our speaker? Councillor Matthews. Could you turn your microphone off, please? So
It's on now. Just in our last section on the conclusion, it says that whilst a social housing provider is still on board to take the proposal forward, we shouldn't remove the condition, but you're saying there isn't a social housing provider on board.
Mary's negotiated with Links Rural Housing. If you'd read the supplementary agenda, these negotiations have gone on for quite a long time. They still haven't replied to her meeting in January. Although they've shown an interest, it's ultimately come out that they haven't got any funding. So if it carries on, it could be another year, it could be 2 years. This has already gone on since 2020, when I think Councillor Cooper had put an amendment forward about this to try and get it all going. Since then, Mary's bought the land off the previous owners because they'd had enough. They capitulated, and instead of just buying the building plots, she's bought the whole field. So what we're saying is, let's get going. If Links Rural Housing gets some money, because we've negotiated with them, she's quite happy
to build some social housing for them on a new application on some land further down the field, which is lower, because apparently poor people can drown and rich people can't drown. Okay, so she's quite happy to still negotiate with them, put in another application for some more homes on the north of the site and build some social housing, which everybody agrees for her needs. But at the moment, we'll end up with nothing if we don't get the project started. You'll end up with nothing, except caravans. You've got to remember, if that field had been applied for caravans, you would have passed it, because one just round the corner, exactly the same, severed by the bypass, just got permission for 26 caravans. Caravans would just be like that. And actually, caravans would be more profitable than trying to build houses, I think, at the moment. Thank you very much.
Councillor Matthews?
Yeah, I did speak verbally with Andy Hames of Links Rural Housing yesterday. He did confirm that they are still interested. There was a hold up with the detailed specification for the construction of the houses, which has recently been rewritten, and that won't go for agreement to the Board of Directors until July. But he didn't actually mention if there was a shortfall in funding, so I can't comment on that particular issue.
Right. Anybody else? Okay. Well, you've seen the officer recommendation for refusal, and if you look at page 58, the reasons are given there. So what do you want to do? We don't all rush at once, will you? Councillor Jones, followed by Councillor Aldridge. The microphone duff again, is it? All right.
That's it. Well, I've heard Mr. McIntyre's presentation. It was supported by the local authority, by the local parish council. It's supported by 30 letters. It's supported by the district councillor, and I do find it very difficult to refuse this application. I therefore propose that this application is approved.
Is that seconded by Councillor Hall? Alex
Yes,
Hall, that is.
Yes.
Make that distinction, David.
Chairman. Yes.
Are there any other comments or any contrary proposal? Councillor Aldridge.
I think we should go with the officer's refusal, unless those who are in favour of refusing come up with some evidence. I mean, we've heard that the developer is hasn't got enough money or something, but that's hearsay. We haven't got that evidence in writing.
I think bearing in mind the complexity. I'm sorry, did you want to speak?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course.
Councillor Aldrin actually preempted me on that one. Often when you go against officer recommendation for refusal with an approval, it's often best practice to have some reasoning, simply because it differentiates this case above any other case that may come before the council, because you do understand the sort of floodgates issue if it's contrary to policy, for example. So with this one, it was clearly the affordable housing is what justified the approval in the first instance, and you need to be mindful of that. And I would ask that you've already given some indication, Councillor Jones, that you feel that the lack of harm and the support from the parish council and from the local council. So I'd just actually just to give me a little bit more, so it differentiates this application above and beyond any other application which happens to have an affordable housing element on it.
Well, what we've heard is that they're taking away to the big houses and they're going to put semi-detached houses there, which I think will fulfil the application first-time buyers. It's well supported, as I say, by the local authority, and these are the houses that this community needs.
Councillor Stephen Eyre.
Just to make the observation that looking at the map you have in front of you, that as the speaker has outlined, there's plenty of room left for social aspect to this development. I'm conscious it needs a new application, but the job seems to have dragged on and on and on, and the community is suffering as a result. It's not as though that site completely takes up all the field.
No. Councillor, Mr. Booth wants to make an observation.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just to sort of sum it up in a way, and mindful of, I think, where the thoughts are going, it was helpful. Clearly, the affordable housing element was the bit that justified the grant of the permission in the first place. Yes, there's the potential for a change in the mix of units, which Councillor Jones indicated he feels might be a better fit with the requirements of the village, and that's material consideration. That's helpful to know. Although the original permission is equally one that the applicant could take advantage of. They've got two choices there. They could do either permission. The bit that I think has probably driven this application for the applicant has been the difficulty over time with them getting a housing provider on board. And I accept that there's been time and it has been difficult. We've certainly had other circumstances in the district where that's been difficult as well. We appear now in more recent times to have a provider who is interested, but clearly there is still potential for delay there. So I guess it probably boils down to is whether the committee maybe think that length of delay and the amount of work that's been done already is probably too much, and that there's equally importance to try and deliver the project quicker than maybe wait for and see whether the uncertainty of delivery is going to happen. So I just sort of put that in the mix as maybe another thing to think about.
Okay.
Yeah, I thank Mr. Booth for that and agree with what he said.
So you're moving for approval contrary to the officer recommendation. So as has been said, in respect of the previous early application, we need to have some planning rules that and conditions that are defensible. There you go.
Yeah, just some reasoning to differentiate this one I've heard is that the amended scheme's looks more affordable, more the changes to the semi-detached. It's well supported by members, by the public and for local council. The community want the houses, there's more room for housing. I wouldn't put too much weight on that, councillor, because it's too far in the future. But also, as you mentioned, Councillor Jones, it's the delay, how long it's taken, and there's no firm answer from the affordable housing provider as yet. Thank you.
Councillor Sid Dennis.
It's just common sense to approve this application. Yeah.
Okay, we've got a proposition in front of me. You all know what you're voting for. Those in favour of the proposition, please show.
That's 9, Chairman.
Any against?
1 Chairman and 1 abstention.
Yeah.
So that's refusal.
That's
approval. Sorry, yes.
Okay. It's been a long day, hasn't it? Right. Okay. Thank you. Would you like another comfort break, colleagues? Go outside and we can all take Valium or something. Just 5 minutes, please. Right, okay, let's recommence. The next item relates to Legbourne. Mr. Booth's going to present this.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could firstly just let members know, we had a late representation from Councillor Grist last night. If I can just read that out, read that to committee. And firstly, just sort of establish the context. This one's a planning.
Would that be, bearing in mind what happened with the previous one, would that be best to be read out? Because I do have a speaker for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry?
That's what I should have done on the previous one. So when I ask the speaker to come up, that can be read out afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, straight in the presentation in that case, then there's nothing on the supplementary papers for this application. Just to confirm, it's an application for a detached dwelling with a detached pavilion and tennis courts and associated fencing, etc. On land behind the woodlands on Mill Lane in Legburn. So, by reference to the aerial shot, this is the site here. Sorry, the cursor's not moving brilliantly, but it's this site here, quite a large area of land. Presently open grassland. The red line, not the clearest, is it? The red line denotes that site, so you can see the size of it. The village, Mill Lane to the north, and then the site.
Yes, yeah, the lights are going to be switched off. Yeah.
It's still not the clearest, is it? I'm afraid, this one. But the red line's the application site. That shows the adjacent properties fronting onto Mill Lane, backing onto the site up here. Large open field application site. The scheme detail. It's a large property. It's a bespoke property. It's been described as sort of reflecting a design shape, and very simply, it's got three wings to it, access coming in here, the south, 3 wings to it. This is a sort of more functional element contains garaging, a gallery for cars, and also for storerooms, etc. It's got a sort of a leisure component here with a cinema room, swimming pool, gym. And then this third wing over here is where the main sort of habitable element of the scheme, the bedrooms and the living room, etc., etc. are. The central area ties it all together. Shared area, covered, but with letting natural daylight come through at the top, open. And I think the indicative, the landscape suggests there might even be a tree that grows through there. So a very, very bespoke dwelling proposal, large lake that would be created to help establish the context. So again, just plans showing a basement area in one of those rooms there, which is the sort of the cinema room, and going quickly through those, really as I described, different types of accommodation within the 3 different wings. And then probably more helpfully, sort of elevational treatments, very contemporary approach, uses traditional materials, but quite contemporary in design. Been considered to take account of the topography and its context, and a couple of CGIs, which put it in context as well. So that obviously shows it in the context of the proposed new lake. And a sort of a evening view to give it context of what that would look like in the early evening. Photos of the site. This is taken from a point pretty much where the access would be off Wood Lane. The site sits behind the hedge here, so this is sort of the access, where the access is just where the photo was taken from. Looking the other way along Wood Lane, so looking away from the village really, away from the Mill Lane direction. That's the access, and that's the application site behind. Again, taken from just at the edge of the site there near the access, so you can see on what is effectively the northern boundary, these are the properties that front onto Mill Lane and back onto the site. This is the only one which is in the ownership of the applicant that doesn't sort of have a strong boundary treatment there at present. The others all clearly distinguished from the application site. And really then just a few more photos that just really give a context for that. So a similar type of view showing the boundary the properties on Mill Lane. You can see in since the Grade 2 listed mill that sits on the opposite side of Mill Lane. And again, a newer property that's been built just beyond the application site. This is looking from the application site itself. And again, really all self-explanatory, just trying to give a bit of a context and feel for the site. So as you can see, it's fairly open, strong boundary treatments, landscape boundary treatments. This is looking back from the site towards the access over in this corner. And a view looking out from the site towards the walls. So quite pleasant outlook. And again, internally looking to the boundaries of the site to the north. And that's it, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, could Mr. Daniel Sharp come forward, please? As you've probably heard by now, Mr. Sharp, you've got 3 minutes to address the committee, and we'll let you know when you've got 30 seconds left in your own time, please. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. Having owned the site for a number of years, my clients have enhanced it through the planting of trees, grasses and wildflowers. The time has now come to provide a new sustainable use for the site, but they want to see it developed in a sensitive way. They wish to create something exemplary to enhance and set a new benchmark for high quality, environmentally efficient housing. The application is the result of an extensive process of pre-application discussions dating back 3 years. Initial proposals for 3 dwellings on the site were discussed, but officers suggested that a single exemplary dwelling would be more appropriate. The site is immediately adjacent to the developed footprint of the large village of Legbourne, with dwellings to the north and east. The local plan supports housing growth in appropriate locations. Indeed, separate permissions for a single large dwelling and a development of 4 dwellings has been approved very close to the application site under the current local plan. As set out in the planning officer's report, the NPPF recognises the importance of giving great weight to outstanding or innovative designs that promote sustainability and help to raise the standard of design as long as they fit in with the overall form and layout of their surroundings. The proposed design, although contemporary, takes reference from the neighbouring dwelling, the Poplars. It is a high-quality design, sensitively sited within heavily landscaped grounds, set to raise design standards whilst positively impacting the character of the area. Highways have been consulted on the project and have no objections with a single dwelling as proposed. The full application is supported by detailed ecology surveys, biodiversity net gain calculations, drainage strategy, historical impact assessments, 3D visualisations and design and planning statements. The proposal provides a 25% measurable biodiversity net gain, more than double the recommended amount, through tree and hedge planting, wildflowers, a wildlife lake, proposed great crested newt breeding ponds and amphibian habitat creation. A thorough schedule of planning conditions is proposed, which the applicant is happy to accept to ensure the compliant delivery of the scheme in accordance with the detailed proposals submitted, along with monitoring of important aspects such as the biodiversity net gain and sustainable credentials. The large site and sensitive design ensure that there will be no impact on neighbours. The officer's report is well considered and regards that the development.
Thank you, sir. You've got.
Is in line.
You've got about quarter of an hour, sorry, 15 seconds left. Thank you.
The development is in line with the strategic aims of the local plan as a whole. It goes on to say that the proposal also complies with all policies relating to ecology, landscape, the historic environment, highways and drainage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, now, before you ask questions of the gentleman, could you read that? That's from Councillor Grist, isn't it? Who couldn't be with us this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. As you say, a representation from Councillor Grist, but he's asked to be read out to the committee. I am unable to attend the Planning Committee meeting on Thursday, 9th of March, but as ward member would like to make the following comments. Firstly, thank you to the Office for preparing such an excellent and detailed report and setting out very clearly pertinent issues in this particular application. I am supportive of the application, assuming all detailed recommendations are applied. Whilst it's a large dwelling that is proposed in a rural setting, I think the benefits outweigh any potential issues. Whilst I'm aware that there have been a number of local objections lodged, as ward councillor, I haven't received any direct correspondence about this application, which is perhaps an indication of the careful thought that has been invested by the applicants prior to submission. I would also make the following observations. 1. Location. Legburn is a large village in settlement hierarchy terms, and it is widely recognised that over the year of the current local plan, the village will evolve in housing development terms. The site is immediately adjacent to the planning footprint of the village, so is a natural extension of the built environment. Given the size of the overall site, the proposed large dwelling would not adversely impact on the surrounding countryside. 2. Design. There is recognition in the report that this is an outstanding and innovative design, and also one which is sympathetic to its surroundings. Also, it is acknowledged that the proposed architecture, layout and landscaping would have an overall positive impact on the character of the area. 3. Biodiversity net gain. The applicants committed to an ecological assessment at the early stages of their submission. Included in the plans are a new pond, 100 native trees, 130 metres of native rich hedge, meadowland planting. There should also be a biodiversity net gain in excess of 20%. 4. Residential amenity. It's acknowledged that there would be minimal, no impact on nearby properties. To reiterate, I have not been contacted directly by any residents who may have concerns, highly unusual for an application of this magnitude. The list of conditions is very lengthy and detailed, but also necessary given the overall size and scale of this application. In conclusion, as ward member, I would be comfortable if the committee were to look favourably on this application. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Booth. Now then, colleagues, you have a chance to ask questions of the gentleman there. Councillor Alex Hall.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to ask any questions. I just wanted to say that I support.
Well,
I just wanted to say.
This is the point where you ask questions of him or not.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to support the application.
Well, you're ahead of the game at the moment. Then. Anybody like to ask questions? Thank you.
I'd like to ask Mr. Booth a couple of questions, if that's okay at this point.
Well, no, this point is where you ask questions of the gentleman that sat there. Have you got any questions of him? No. Councillor Eyre?
I'm conscious it's of a significant design, but it's slightly perplexing that it's full of outside walls, isn't it? Well, everywhere has an outside wall, every leg of the propeller. So does it remain energy efficient is what I think I'm trying to say.
Is the microphone working, please?
Obviously, the sort of market it's aimed at, it is a large area, and I think if you was to put that in one block as such, it would be quite overbearing and overpowering. Certainly, it would be built to be highly efficient, highly insulated. So I think I understand what you're saying, but in terms of heat loss, yeah, I don't think that's going to be an issue at all.
Any more questions of the gentleman? No? Right. We have a recommendation from this. What do I hear? Anyone make a proposition? Councillor Jones?
Yeah, we're all fairly obsessed with affordable housing, and obviously the applicant for this house. It's very good looking, I think, well designed, and I would support the officer's recommendation for approval.
Is that seconded? Is there a contrary proposition? Okay, so you know what you're voting for. All those in favour, please show. Any against?
That's 10, Chairman.
Thank you. That's been carried. Moving on. It's the last planning application which we've got before us. Sorry. That's okay. This is the final application before us. To Mars Chapel.
Yes.
When we get going, we're talking about the last planning application.
Got an interest? Well, that's, yes, taking it.
Yes, Councillor Eyre. Right. Councillor Aldridge?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, yeah. Right, okay, shall we move on then, colleagues? Is Graham there? Yeah, right, okay. So this is the application. Would you like to- away you go, then. The microphone, please.
Apologies, yeah. Yeah, just to confirm, there are some bits on the white paper, supplementary, whether members want to read those after the presentation, so you've seen it in context before you read those, but
Yeah.
maybe a bit closer.
The PA system's frankly awful.
I'll lean in. Right, yeah, so the site is on the edge of Marshchapel Village. It's for change of use, conversion, alterations to two residential properties. So you've got the main coastal road, Marshchapel Village as a whole, and the site is in this sort of southern area, but actually I think it's in here. So in a little bit more detail, so you can see the context of the village. The site itself is this red line here. We've got three agricultural buildings, which you'll see better on the next slide. But you can see the housing development more close to the north, a couple of roadside properties, a larger Clyde house to the south, and agricultural fields obviously beyond. So the existing site comprises essentially three buildings, which is labelled building number one is this large agricultural building. Well, they're all agricultural buildings, but the largest sort of prefab in here, there's a sort of Nissan style or shaped building, this one, and then two more traditional style brick and pan-tile properties just here. So the proposal is to remove the large central building, which is in here, landscape all that, then to convert the two buildings bookend the site. Car parking provided for each of those, and the access obviously maintained through the existing access, which sort of serves this site and goes beyond into the agricultural landscape. So just a few slides of what the existing buildings are. I'll try and whiz through these because they are better seen from the photos, to be honest. But this is the larger building, barn number one, and then barn two is the sort of Nissan style building. It should be coming. There it is. Yeah. I mean, they're all fairly sort of functional buildings, and latterly, these are the buildings closest to the road, the more traditional style buildings. The proposals, we've got some, well, it just shows the internal layout. So because it is in the flood zone, the ground floor is raised or partially raised. In this section, you can see the steps on the outside and the sort of created a plinth all the way around. Similar for the upper floor, there's a void area at the front, car parking, double height as well, and then additional bedrooms at first floor, and just some of the elevational treatment. So you can see the raised steps up, the raised internal area, which is also this area here, is to be reclad. Totally reclad. You'll see at the moment it's predominantly breeze block sort of exterior. So the idea is to sort of put a more sort of user-friendly external material, so rust-coloured metal cladding, to match the roof. You see the steps here again. So all this area is raised internally, and the garaging is still at existing ground level. And conversion of the other building. So there's a link. I'll just wait for it to catch up. Keeps drifting off for some reason. Yeah, there's a glazed area to link the two buildings. Again, internally raised, not as high as the other building, but nevertheless internally raised. So the elevational treatment. coming through. Oh, it is. Yeah, so elevation treatment, you can see the steps up again, raised internally within here, and the glazed link. This is to maintain sort of the existing brickwork and roof tiles, so the more traditional of the two buildings. So again, there's a three-dimensional shot of the site. I think shows it quite well. Obviously, the two more traditional buildings here, glazed link, the raised sort of plinth on the outside and internally. And again, you can just see that on the other one. And obviously, that large building in the middle is to be removed and sort of landscaped to create a pleasant sort of environment for these two properties. And again, some similar sort of artist impressions of how they're going to look. So you can see it's going to be reclad, matching sort of very contemporary style finish to this property, and a more traditional form conversion on the other one. So looking at the photos, this is from the main road looking into the site. These are the three buildings in the site that you can see. So there's traditional property closest to the road with roadside properties either side. And then just a general context of the village, you can see there's housing to the south, still to the south. And then as you move through the site, yes, these buildings, this one, the centre one here is to be removed. So that goes, and that was the landscaping scheme in this area. And you can see the sort of Nissan style building, breeze block and corrugated roof. Such. So just remind you that the raised plinth area around here, totally reclad, new openings in here. The eaves level does actually increase on this building, and then the hoop recreated on top of that. So you've got the first floor accommodation. And just looking back down towards the main road in this area, and it catches up. Yeah, so yeah, the main road in this area here, housing at the entrance. Again, this one is to go. And then these are the properties on Mill Lane, Mill Close, sorry, backing onto the site. On the roadside, buildings towards the road to be converted, and just at the entrance on the other side of the road. And I think that's it, Chairman. Thank you. Oh, just a reminder, there's the bits on the white sheet that members might. Yes, I think finished there, but just a reminder the bits on the white paper.
To come forward, thank you. I think by now you know the routine, Madam. You know it better than I do, actually. I think. Yeah. As I say, well, you know the routine, but away you go. Can you speak clearly into the microphone, please? Because
I can, of course.
This is not state of the art.
I'll give it a go. I'll shout if needs be. Well, I've had the pleasure of working on these two interesting buildings over the last while. I'm the architect on the project. The applicant did submit some additional information that I hope you have and you can have a read of. I think the importance of this project is about the reuse of the existing buildings and the sustainable aspect of reusing existing buildings, not taking up additional material. I mean, obviously, converting will take material, but the actual fact that they're structurally sound, they're in an ideal location in the village. We're also having a removal of the existing middle barn to provide a ecological opportunity and a biodiversity. Biodiversity. I think if you look at it in the wider context of the national planning policy framework, the reuse of existing buildings is encouraged for environmental and sustainable reasons, but also because they're existing within the current landscape. In fact, taking one of the buildings away is going to, I think, personally, have a positive impact on the area, which is surrounded by dwellings and housing. Although it's on the edge of the farmland, it is in the village. Again, looking at the national policy, if this was in the countryside, under paragraph 80, we would be looking potentially at the support of it because it would be paragraph 80, potentially a paragraph 80 reuse of existing buildings. So we're sort of on the edge of this agricultural land with agricultural buildings. Potentially, if they're left empty, they're, you know, the middle one, the opportunity to actually make them pleasing and an addition to the village, and an opportunity as well for people to take on these, you know, adventurous projects of the reuse of existing structures is really exciting. I think in terms of the parish council, there's been no objection. I think in terms of the feedback from the planning officer involved, there was some discussion around or some relationship to SP 18. There seems to be, and I think this is discussed or written about in the applicant's feedback.
30 seconds left. Thank you.
Right. The opportunity to find to put them on the market for 12 months, I think, is written about from the applicant's perspective because he's more familiar with the business side of things and agriculture in the area. I would also like to say that these are potentially fall within a class Q, which if not converted like this, could potentially be looked at as class Q. So there's various different, I feel, reasons to support.
I'm afraid the time's up. Thank you. Okay. Right. Any questions of the lady, colleagues? No? So the officer recommendation is refusal, if I remember rightly. Is it Councillor Jones?
Well, if you look at those photographs, I think the proposal is only a betterment for the area. There's quite a compelling presentation by the lady architect to support these things. And if these were farm buildings, I thought they could nearly get them converted anyway. I do feel that this would support the community, support the village, give an economy to the village. There are no objections for the parish council, and I really can't see a reason for objecting, and I propose that we approve the application.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis?
Yeah, we're back to common sense again. I think the officers have been put in a position where they're having to follow the plan. But I certainly think it's not only a betterment, I think it's a great design and a great use of property, and I can't fault the lady's presentation. I can't fault that, and I would like to find a way, if possible, to find it. And I'm not having a pop at the officers because they're doing what they need to do and following policy. I just wondered if there is some guidance out there from our legal lady, if it's possible at all, for us to make a little bit of sense of this and sort of pass it through, if that's possible.
Yes, respond. Before I bring Councillor Hall in.
Well, councillors, as you're all aware, it's a planning balance. So you're being set with that there's harm because of the flood risk in the coastal zone. Moving forward, I would ask that if it's an approval, you justify this to make it stand alone from other applications. Yeah, Councillor Jones and Councillor Dennis, you've already started to do this. I've heard that it's a betterment, good use of property. So looking, you're reusing existing buildings on the site. It's in the context of other dwellings as well. It's not like it's standalone in the open countryside. So it's just a case for me is that you're applying more weight on the benefits, and you've stated some of the benefits already, and that those benefits outweigh the harm as specified in the refusal. So that's how you dress it up. Basically, you need to say what the benefits are and that they outweigh the harm which is outlined in the officer's report.
We've been Councillor Hall in for then. Do you want to come back, Councillor Dennis?
Yes, I suggested, well, being as the flood risk, if they put a robust sort of flood evacuation plan in place and conditioned with the office and working with the office, you know, that might just help it a little bit. I don't know what the architect would think of that.
Councillor Hall wants to make a comment, please.
Unfortunately, Councillor Dennis has just made me the point I was about to make. To put in a flood, that's absolutely fine. I was also going to happily second.
Councillor Eyre?
The stumbling block with this appears to be the flood risk, but from what I can see from these pictures, it's made a delightful development, and the design aspect of it has, as far as I can see, mitigated the flood risk. It's obviously been designed with that in mind, so I would hope on balance that it may be supported.
Right, so is there any more comments?
Well, I just want to add for obviously the support that, as I say, this is not only betterment for the buildings, but it's also supports the economy, local economy, the local community, and give opportunity for people to move into the area and keep these villages alive. Thank you.
Right, is that seconded? Yes. So I have one proposition in front of me, which is to approve the application, which goes against officer recommendations on the grounds that Councillor Jones has indicated in terms of betterment, etc., etc.
Yeah, Chairman, I think, yeah, we've given sufficient justification, just to confirm that Councillor Jones and Councillor Hall. Standard conditions, but you would wish to see an emphasis on flood evacuation and flood risk, sort of stringent plans in place.
Is that clear
right?
to everybody?
Okay.
Okay, on that basis, I'll take the vote. Those in favour? Any against?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, Councillor Ayres against. Is that correct?
And I can you
Oh,
do
but
that again,
sorry,
please?
you was a bit late.
Right, can we do it 4 against?
Yeah.
4.
Four.
Initially again, please. Yeah, 4.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7, Chairman,
There you go.
and 1 abstention from you.
That's it.
That's
So there you go. Right. So now we've just got, so this, we'll rattle through this. Item 10 is appeals decided. They're there for noting. Yeah, is that agreed? Appeals are noted. Fine. And item 11 is delegated decisions. Same again. Are they noted? All agreed? Thank you. And finally, the date of the next meeting is the 6th of April. Okay, and so with that, I thank you for your forbearance. Have a safe journey home.